Alrighty, friends, now that we are ready to learn, we are going to read a story together. This story is going to help us get ready for our All About Me slides. Now, really quick, before we read our story, I want to give you a reminder about our Bitmoji classroom. Some friends had a hard time finding the Bitmoji classroom yesterday, so even if you are not in my homeroom, I will be putting the Bitmoji classroom as part of this assignment. So if you want to look at the links and buttons in our Bitmoji classroom, you can do that in the assignment. But for now, we're going to read a story and we're going to answer a question about it. And today's story is going to be called Me, Frida. And as you guys can see, I am wearing a Frida Kahlo shirt today. Frida Kahlo was a real painter in real life from Mexico, and she was very famous for her paintings. So today we are going to read a story together to learn more about Frida. Me, Frida, by Amy Noveski and illustrated by David Diaz. To Frida, the city I love and my querido. On the warm cobblestone streets of Coyoacán, everyone knew her name. Frida Kahlo lived in the blue house with her new husband, the famous artist, Diego Rivera. Frida was an artist too. The night the telegram arrived inviting Diego to San Francisco, Frida dreamed of a city far from her home in Mexico as she painted a portrait of herself there. Take a time out. I'm going to ask you, what did Frida paint a picture of? You can read the page again. What did Frida paint a picture of? That's right. She painted a picture of herself. We see it in the picture here. She painted a picture of herself dreaming of that city. Then she packed her blue trunk and she and Diego flew north. Frida had never left Mexico before. Soon they were standing in the very city she painted. Diego, big as an elephant, Frida, a lovely little bird on his arm. Now they are imagining like they're flying to the new city together. Frida and her husband Diego, and we see the bird. They lived at 716 Montgomery Street in the Artist Quarter. So that's a type of neighborhood. When we talk about the Artist Quarter, that just means the artist neighborhood. Beneath a leaky glass roof and dangling globes of light, they drank café con leche and ate sliced oranges. Outside, the world was cool and gray. Frida felt very far away from home. Diego was working on a mural for the city. While he sketched, Frida was restless. She strummed her guitar. She sang a Mexican folk song called Corridos. Quiet, querida, cooed Diego. He loved his beloved singing, but there was work to be done. So in the picture, you guys see Frida singing her corridos, those Mexican folk songs, and Diego's in the background painting a mural. A mural is a type of painting that goes on a wall. So he's painting on the wall, he's painting a mural. Before Diego began painting, he wanted to study his subject. His subject is what he's painting about, so he wants to study the city. Frida followed him as he explored the city. They climbed up and down its many steep hills. They gazed up at its shiny skyscrapers. Diego thought they were great, like ancient ruins. Frida disagreed. So Frida doesn't like those skyscrapers or those tall buildings as much as Diego. They explored orchards and oil derricks, a gold mine, and redwood groves. They stood beneath the towering trees. Diego felt empowered by everything he saw. Frida fell asleep on the way home. Frida doesn't seem to like all of the trees either. And then, with a team of assistants, Diego went to work painting entire city walls. Some nights, he didn't come home at all. Other nights, Mr. and Mrs. Diego Rivera attended parties. The city's elite celebrated Diego. Frida stood quietly at his side. No one even looked at her. On the long days without Diego, Frida felt lost. She was in a foreign city. She didn't speak much English, and she didn't have many friends. So Frida feels kind of alone. She doesn't have a lot of friends. She doesn't speak English. She's there with Diego, but he's busy painting. So Frida started exploring the city on her own. She wandered through the narrow street markets. She touched pretty birds in tiny, ornate cages and searched in little shops for silk to make skirts. She admired moon-faced babies. Frida especially loved Chinatown. It smelled of incense, fish, and fog. So here she is walking around Chinatown, which is just another neighborhood in the city, but she's exploring. She's seeing new things. She's seeing new people. Soon, Frida felt bolder and rode on a streetcar. She took a ferry across the Golden Gate and walked in the green headlands high above the ocean. From there, she could see the entire glittering city and all it held, including Diego. It was small enough to fit on the wing of a bird. For once, Frida felt larger than life. Me, Frida! She felt like she could fly. Now this is important because we see me, Frida, and that's the title of our book. So if it's the title, we already know it's important. Frida is feeling like she could fly. She's happy about all the new things that she's been exploring and seeing the whole city. Frida went back to Montgomery Street and painted. She knew she was an artist too. While Diego painted his monumental murals about town, Frida painted small portraits at home. The local press called Frida's portraits passable or good enough. Good enough was not good enough for Frida. She wanted to be great. One night at yet another party, all eyes were on the great Mexican painter Diego Rivera. Frida stood quietly at his side, but she could hardly contain herself. She thought the Americans' faces resembled dough. She missed Mexico, and she was tired of being quiet. Suddenly, Frida began to sing. Not just any songs, but the Mexican folk song she sang to Diego while he worked. All eyes were on her, including Diego's. Huzzah! He shouted at the end of each verse. He always knew Frida was marvelous. That night, Frida painted something great, a colorful wedding portrait of herself and Diego. She painted Diego big, and she painted herself small, just as the world saw them. So again, we have another painting where Frida is painting herself. And if you guys look at my shirt really quick, this is a real Frida Kahlo painting. So you can see how she put herself in the paintings, in the portraits. But Frida knew she was more than this, and she put herself first. In the beak of a pink bird, she wrote a tiny note on a violet ribbon. Here you see us, me, Frida Kahlo, with my adored husband, Diego Rivera. I painted these portraits in the beautiful city of San Francisco, California, in April of 1931. So Frida would put these little ribbons at the end of her paintings sometimes. Frida's painting, Frida and Diego Rivera, was featured in the 6th annual exhibition of the San Francisco Society of Women Artists. It was her first show. Adorned in her best dress and necklaces of ancient jade, her jet black hair braided, Frida walked proudly through the crowd. When people saw her, they stopped and stared at her in wonder. So now Frida's all dressed up and she's excited because she's getting to show her art. She's getting to show the paintings that she made of herself and Diego. So that is the end of our book. And I want you guys to think about, what did Frida paint about? What was in each single one of her paintings? Here is an example right here of one of Frida's paintings, and you guys see that there's her and Diego. Here's one of Frida's paintings, like I said, on my shirt, we see Frida. If we go back in the book, she's painting, and right here, if we read this page again, it says, that night, Frida painted something great, a colorful wedding portrait of herself and Diego. So again, another picture where Frida is painting herself. So I want you guys to think about that while you answer your question down below.